Sir, professionally, you are a pharmacist. How long you been in this pharmacy business?
Oh my goodness. I grew up in the pharmacy business. My father was a pharmacist before me, and he had me stacking shelves since I was 4 or 5 years old in the local pharmacy when I was growing up in Nova Scotia. We have since taken it and grown that business now into something larger, and so we now have like a full service care facility type business that we run in Ontario and also in Nova Scotia with about 350 employees.
Martin Singh ji, Punjabi community ਦੀ ਨਾ ਇੱਕ ਗੱਲ ਮੈਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨ ਵੀ ਸੀ ਨਾ ਤੇ ਇੰਗਲੈਂਡ ਤੋਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਸੀ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਇਜ਼ ਵੈਰੀ ਕਲੋਜ਼ ਟੂ ਦੇਅਰ ਲੈਂਗੁਏਜ ਤੇ ਅਗਰ ਮੈਂ I can speak English, there's no problem whatsoever, and I know you have a full grasp on English, and as I can feel that you were raised here in this community and that's your first language now. English is your first language. The beauty of the Punjabi communities, they never let their own language go. If you feel comfortable, I would request you please so that my listeners are phenomenal. They do understand English. There's no problem whatsoever. But it's just the personal touch that, you know what, for example, me, Arifa, I got good education, but still my brain thinks in my own language.
So sister, well, I will share something with you just about my background.
Yes.
I'm not Punjabi. My family came to Canada in 1782, and my mother's family originates from southern Germany in the Bavaria region, and my father's family comes from Northern Ireland.
Wow.
To use a Punjabi word, I'm a Gora. And so I had no benefit.
You know what? When I looked at you,
I'm an English and French guy. Like I speak English and French because I'm raised in Canada. So okay. I'm deeply sorry. Like I understand a bunch of Punjabi.
I love you. It's good that we got the explanation, because I remember my father used to say the Sikhs are very handsome people. They have beautiful eyes. They are tall heights, very tall. And I thought, okay, so this means you are basically a German and a French, Hana?
Well, I mean, like German and Northern Irish, but I mean, we don't really think about that anymore. That was like 250 years ago. So I would dare say we're just Canadian at this point.
Martin, I apologize for all these things, okay?
Martin, you know what? All kind of people are there. So this is a person who is representing. Thank you very kindly for the explanation. And I know there are very many people like myself who sometimes think that, oh, why he cannot speak own language. So this means this is your first language which you're talking. And now, Martin, you joined NDP, and your concerns, when I was listening to these concerns, are, and of course it is my concern as well, the congestion on the roads. And I believe that every highway is needed. When we go towards the east side, we can see so many north-south roads which connect 407 to QEW, whereas towards the west side there are none whatsoever after 427. So what do you think what NDP can do which conservatives and liberals could never deliver?
So one of the things that we want to do, we want to make sure that we make use of the infrastructure that exists already. It's really an immediate solution, you can say. And this particular solution we've been committed to since, really the 2022 provincial election. In that election, we stated that we would remove tolls off of the 407 for commercial vehicles so that they would be able to immediately make the switch from the 401 to the 407. It would be cheaper for them, faster, and safer for everybody involved. Now, since that time, the New Democratic Party has done its research, and we now know that we can make it affordable to take the tolls off, not just for commercial vehicles, but really for everybody. And part of this can be done immediately upon us forming government on February 27th. And the reason for that is because while a portion of the 407 is privately owned, there's a large section still remaining in public hands, meaning that it's owned by the government of Ontario. And so we would have the ability to immediately remove the tolls on that section of the highway for everybody shortly after getting elected on February 27th.
Whereas the Ford government has already decided that the one which is owned, 407, which is owned by the public sector, they are going to free it for everybody. But I listen to your this point that trucks should go to 407, and I believe if the trucks will go on to 407, which is already been sold, the part of it is sold. So then our end user's life will become miserable, because the trucks, if they have to pay the toll, all the burden will come towards the end user, towards the end. If I'm wrong, do correct me for that.
Yeah, no. So what it is, it may just be the case that I didn't explain our position well enough. So the part of the 407 that is owned by the province, we will take the tolls off. The Conservatives have talked about doing this in the past. They have never done it. But for the part that's owned privately, we would cover the cost of the tolls for them. Mm-hmm. So they would be able to use the private part of the 407, and the province would pick up the cost of the tolls there. Now, you might come back and say, well, geez, that seems like an unreasonable cost to be picked up by the province. But the money has actually been there for quite some time. Mm-hmm. Again, back in 2022, the private company that runs that part of the 407 had a $1 billion debt owed to the province of Ontario. Mm-hmm. And what happened was that the Doug Ford government chose to write it off. Well, they shouldn't have written it off. They should have asked the company to pay the fee of $1 billion because they were fined for not running the highway properly. Well, sister, you and I both know you can pay a lot of tolls for $1 billion, which means it's just a matter of priorities. Tragically, Doug Ford has decided to write off these debts and enrich his rich friends privately, whereas we in the New Democratic Party are choosing to invest in people living in Ontario and people living in Brampton.
You explained it, because let me tell you, the previously what I was listening was little confusion for me, but now you explained it very well, that with this debt which was forgiven, or they could have taken something in return of that. One more thing, when I listen to the politicians, Mr. Martin, please don't mind it. As a resident of this area, these are my concerns, and I am speaking in ordinary person's language, so I'm asking these questions. So normally when I listen to the politicians, especially the Liberals, they say, you know what, this 413, if they make this 413, it's an environmental hazard and it will take 10 years. Every infrastructure, once they make, it takes time to build. There is a small repair on the road, for 1 month the traffic is congested, and the contractors don't complete in a matter of week or 10 days. So 413, so this means is it in the pipeline? If your party comes as well, would you make some more infrastructure in this area to facilitate people?
So when we talk about the 413 is something that's already been decided upon by government. Mm-hmm. And so it's most likely to go ahead. I am not privy to the details of the contract, but as with most contracts, if you were to break an established contract, there would be a penalty clause in there, and that would cost the province some amount of money. Mm-hmm. We know that this hit the Dalton McGuinty Liberal government when they canceled, I believe it was the natural gas contract back some years ago in Mississauga, and that cost the taxpayers $1 billion there. So you can see where the Conservatives and the Liberals have a history of wasting taxpayers' dollars. We're not interested in wasting taxpayers' dollars. Certainly we're deeply concerned about the method that was used, about the 413 and how it was implemented, and how all of the environmental safeguards for what would be a regular highway approval process were pushed aside by the Doug Ford government, because it means that likely the highway is going to encounter serious problems that are going to cause the taxpayer even more money when it goes under construction. But the thing is that whatever happens with the 413, there's actually a piece of infrastructure that exists today. There are occasions when the 407 is so underutilized. Well, I mean, you can look it up on the internet. There was one time someone actually landed a plane on it. I mean, think about that for a second. Would you ever be able to land a plane on the 401 or even the 410 that goes down the middle of the goes down the middle of the city of Brampton? It would never happen. So what we were looking at, 413, sure, it's there, but we have an existing piece of infrastructure that we can literally make full use of today, but the other two political parties are choosing not to do it.
Thank you very kindly. One more question is, CCAC is a department where I believe if somebody goes through a private surgery or something, nurses come in. I believe so, or I might be wrong. It could be, I think it comes under the province. Sometimes once they send the medicine, they waste too much of the stuff is being sent for the cancer patients when their medicines are sent at home. So there is too much wastage of the medicine and drugs. I personally had one surgery and I got the all the medicine at home, and I believe I had to throw so much gauze and things in the garbage because it was not usable. Cancer patients, sometimes they get so much. So do you think that waste can be stopped so that can be used for the benefit of others in a better way?
So when we talk about healthcare economics, sister, we have to be very, very careful. Healthcare economics is one of probably the most complicated topics inside of economics that you can have. When we talk about wastage, like of the tech that you mentioned, people think of it in two forms. They think about it in terms of the financial cost for the material itself, and then they think about it in terms of the material actually going into the garbage and, adding to all the garbage that's out there already. Certainly in terms of adding to the garbage, it's a deep concern. In terms of cost, we have to really look at it differently than what we would think that it might be, meaning this. The price that we pay for medications when we go to purchase them at the pharmacy, or the price that we pay for other medical supplies at the pharmacy when we go pick up, be it gauze or otherwise, the cost to hospitals for this particular type of material is often significantly less because they purchase it on a much larger basis. This is not only true for what happens in hospitals, it's also true, for example, with the Department of National Defense. So the Department of National Defense basically negotiates contracts for prescription medication for all the members of the Canadian Armed Forces across the entire country. As you can imagine, they're going to get a much better price than me and you simply going as individuals to the pharmacies ourselves. But here in Brampton, this is actually not the main healthcare issue. There are actually three overriding healthcare issues that we have to deal with. One of them is the fact that the Doug Ford government promised to have shovels in the ground back in 2023 for a hospital. There's no shovels in the ground yet, and we're at 2025. And when you do a comparison between Brampton and Mississauga, Brampton now has a larger population than Mississauga. Mississauga, depending on how you count it, has 3 or 4 full-service hospitals, and we only have 1. So we're fighting to get our second one when, in fact, we need actually a third hospital in order to meet our requirements. In addition, 104,000 people living in Brampton, that's 1 out of every 8 people in the city, don't have a family doctor. That is a huge concern. I hear you with what you're sharing with me, but when I'm on the doorsteps, I have a lot more people coming in telling me, I'm deeply concerned about not having a family doctor. I'm deeply concerned about not having a hospital access and waiting 16 hours in an emergency room trying to get service when they have a broken arm or a broken finger. So all these healthcare things are a concern, but we want to make sure that we take a comprehensive approach in order to be able to engage the solutions for those crises and those challenges that are of greatest need.
Beautiful, Mr. Martin Singh, you are representing the community to solve their problem, and I am representing the community to bring their problems in your notice. I believe this 18 years ago when my husband died, he had to wait in the queue in the hospital 18 years ago for almost 6+ hours, and he died because he had a heart attack. But my question over here, I believe so, and I wish you all the best. You are such a wonderful man. You should win and you should make a change for the end user.
Thank you.
What can you do so that the mainstream, yes, it's a great media, but every South Asian, Sri Lankan media, Indian media, Punjabi media, Urdu media, because most of the people, they try to understand and they try to listen things in their own language, and they try to convey their problem in their own language. Whereas, and I believe, what can you do to help people to understand that at the time of census, all the Bramptonians should participate in the census. So the hospitals must know how many doctors needed. Sometimes the community is also not playing its role. They don't participate in the census. The community, they don't even actually tell how many people are living in one dwelling, one residence. If I'm wrong, do correct me for that.
Yeah, so one of the things that we do as part of this election campaign is that we go door to door. We go door to door, like myself, actually, immediately after this interview, I'll be going out door to door, and we meet with the residents to engage with them, and they come from all different diverse backgrounds. They have a diverse set of concerns, and what we do is that we basically note their concerns that they have. We respond to them with what we're going to be doing as the New Democratic Party, and then we let them know that day one, once I get elected on February 27th, we'll be going out and we'll be starting the process of making the solutions reality for them so that their quality of life can improve. Parts of this, sister, are done within our own government. I mean, it's done at the provincial level. So we talked about healthcare. Healthcare is a provincial responsibility. There are other issues that come up on the doorstep. Say, for example, immigration. Immigration's federal responsibility. So it's not something that I can personally change as an MPP or any MPP.
But you can be my voice. You can be our voice.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. That's
my last question
exactly
to you is: yesterday there was a robbery in North Park and airport. It was a poor cellman guy, and 7-8 guys came and they beat him to and they took everything from him, and police came later on. The jewelry stores are suffering. They are really suffering a lot, all the jewelry stores. What do you think about the control of the crime, the control of do you have any agenda that once somebody is caught as a criminal should not be bailed? What can you do to make our life, because everything depends on the other thing. With the theft, car theft, our insurances are increasing. Now if somebody buys a new car, has to pay tons of insurance on that car. Jewelers and small businesses, their life is in danger because of these culprits. So what a plan do you have for the security of the residents?
Yeah, and I will share with you, sister, the concern that you just shared with me is a concern that we're hearing, I would say, pretty much every single day.
It is a big concern, my dear Martin, and my favor go with you if you can solve this problem. I will endorse you, and I'll ask everybody to vote for you. Please, let me
share with you what we're doing. First of all, I'm going to draw a compare and contrast here. So, tragically, under the 7 years of the Doug Ford government, they have done literally nothing to address this issue, and the Liberals before them have also done nothing. And this is the reason why the issue has gotten so bad, because year over year it's been allowed to get worse and worse. So one of the plans that we have within the New Democratic Party is something to try to address, the all-encompassing crime issue, something that we can do to try to fix, at least in some way, all the challenges that exist out there. And one of those things is making sure that the court system is properly funded. Right now, what happens is that there's not enough funding for the court system to function, and so some of those people who are charged and would be found guilty are instead being let go free, because the government actively chooses to waste money trying to put alcohol into corner stores or waste $200 million on this unneeded election. So when you make a proper investment in the court system, those people there, they do a fantastic job. The challenge they have, they just don't have enough people working to facilitate all the challenges that we have. The second piece is a very specific item that we have, and it's going after the car theft item in particular. So in other jurisdictions in Canada, that's to say some other provinces and some of the states in the United States, they have an enhanced VIN or vehicle identification number tracking system, which means that it is much much more difficult for car thieves in those provinces to sell the cars that they have stolen, which will significantly reduce the number of cars that we're having stolen in Brampton. So the NDP really has, a two pathway approach. One is to address crime more generally by ensuring that our court system's properly funded, so that addresses all different types of crime. And then we have a specific item going after car theft in particular, because we know it's such a huge issue in Brampton East and Brampton more generally.
Martin, I really appreciate your time, and unfortunately, our time for the interview is getting a little shorter. You are a candidate, aren't you?
Yes, I am your NDP candidate for the riding of Brampton East.
Okay, could you give me the boundaries of where people living there get to know who Martin is?
Certainly. So your southern boundary is really the border between Mississauga and Brampton, and then it goes all the way up to Mayfield, and then it travels from Highway 50 all the way over to Torbram, except for very near Mayfield. Up in the northern part of the riding, it actually doesn't stop at Torbram. It goes to Bramalea. So for 80% of the way from the Mississauga boundary up to Mayfield, it is Highway 50 and Torbram Road, which is the boundary, and then it pushes out a little bit to the west to Bramalea at the very top.
Martin, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and I wish you nothing but all the best.
Thank you so much. You take care.
Thank you.